Kena Bridge of Spirits received a 1-year anniversary update back in September, and I'll get onto that shortly, but I'm still so curious to see whether developers Ember Labs' eye-catching debut game should be considered a success. There's a notion within the gaming society that we should always give first-time indie developers the benefit of the doubt because they have so little funding to work with, they've likely poured their hearts and souls into their product, and they often charge so much less than other AAA companies are charging these days. But here on Respawn, though, I like to keep things honest and tell you straight, whether it's AAA, AA developer, or even the tiniest indie developer just trying to find their way in life.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God, this is awful. I'm not even joking. Who made that?
Us? It's beautiful.
You made it? Give me my money back.
No,
Huh?
you can't.
I want my dollar back.
Thankfully though, I'm more than happy to say that Kena Bridge of Spirits is a gorgeously crafted game, oozing with passion and impressively structured gaming mechanics, and that's regardless of the fact that this is Ember Labs' first ever game. Now, I've seen plenty of comparisons of Kena against Zelda Breath of the Wild, and even though Kena has clearly taken some inspiration from Breath of the Wild, I still believe Kena to be a breath of fresh air, but that's not discounting that Breath of the Wild still stands alone as a breathtaking game, and even daring to mention Kena in the same breath as Breath of the Wild will have Nintendo fans speaking to Kena fans like,
Your breath is dog shit.
I know.
The story behind Kena Bridge of Spirits isn't as playful or light-hearted as I was expecting it to be either. It really goes against the grain of these cutesy, wide-eyed, fluffy little fuzzballs that are known as the Rot. It's a story about life and death, to put it simply, with Kena being a spirit guide that walks the bridge between life and death for those poor defenseless spirits, and it's Kena's job to help them bridge that gap between life and death.
That's how I roll.
The exploration of this world has been described by Ember Labs themselves as wide linear with Metroidvania elements. There's corrupted guarded chests, flower shrines, spirit mail which needs delivering to the village's home, there's meditation spots to increase Kena's maximum health, and of course more little rot friends to find, and there's even cosmetic collectibles too. Hats, basically. That's what these little rot buggers like to wear, and some cost more than others, and I felt a little guilty handing just one rot the super expensive hat to make it the envy of all the other rot.
Yo, what's up, man? How you? Man. Oh, you know, cuz. Keeping it straight.
The linear level design becomes the previously mentioned wide linear when a good amount of opportunities to ignore the encouraged main path present themselves, and heading in the opposite direction instead will be rewarded with a little something extra to collect. The land Kena walks has been corrupted, and to dispel this corruption she must find a sacred mountain tribe whilst guiding the lost spirits who are far from content with their current predicament.
What did you expect? You're dead.
Kena can grow a little army of rot who maintain the balance by decomposing the dead and rotting elements that are found throughout the world. I know, right? Not a typical sentence you'd associate with a game that looks as pretty as this. These little munchkins aren't just for show though. They can give Kena a variety of ways to progress through puzzle mechanics in combat, just sitting down to have a laugh with them, joyously dancing on Kena's head, or just proudly standing on Kena's shoulders as we meet new characters on our adventure.
What's that thing on your shoulder?
The combat will be familiar for most players that have played a modern third-person action game, with the three main ways to fight using melee, ranged, or using your little rot pals as decoys, or helpfully chipping away at the enemy's health bar. These three methods are surprisingly well refined too, and the encounters with enemies can be genuinely difficult on the harder settings, but there is a story mode difficulty for those looking to breeze through the game. The health regen is pretty quick and generous between fights, giving us a fresh start to each fight, and as mentioned, the rot are there to help. Attacking enemies will build up their courage to help Kena out in various ways, and courage is also a physical pickup. I love the sense that we're up against the environment as well as the enemies, and although defeating these corrupted flowers isn't exactly difficult, it's rewarding to see the world returning to a perfectly saturated woodland. The health top-ups are quite original too, because the rot will purify these flowers during combat to top up your health, which is another little gameplay system that's been executed really well, with the player having to shift focus from the enemies to the environment and then back again. Some of Kina's animations do look a little wooden at times, and that's not just during the combat either, with plenty of verticality in the world and those familiar highlighted ledges for Kina to climb to new heights and explore new areas. Regardless of the look of these animations though, they feel smooth, which is the main thing, but I fully appreciated the little twirl that she does when double jumping, adding some totally unnecessary but thoroughly enjoyable showmanship to the platforming. These striking visuals are unavoidable. They're pure, unadulterated eye candy, with Ember Labs' previous experience in the animated film industry really shining through. The colours are perfectly saturated and contrast each other so naturally, with the brash, vibrant greens and blues and the searing reds and oranges blazing all over my monitor. The facial expressions are fantastic, and again, Ember Labs making good use of their expertise in animation with these adorable little blobs of fluff that are unfortunately called the Rotten, and each character you meet displaying their emotions so clearly with little need for dialogue. The lighting too, it looks so crisp when exploring the forest and seeing the light shafts burst through the gaps in the foliage, illuminating the mist that it touches. The one issue I've got with the lighting though was the occasional delay when entering and exiting the odd structure here and there, but this was pretty rare. Ember Labs have delivered on their next-gen promise too, with only a few sacrifices being made to get it running smoothly on PS5 at a dynamic 2K at 60 FPS. Things like foliage density have been cut back, but it still looks pretty incredible on console. But there's still no word of it releasing on Xbox, unfortunately. Playing on PC with a 3090 and an i9, it ran really well, as you'd hope, with nearly all the settings set to ultra, and if you wanted to absorb even more of the lush environment that's on show, then there's a pretty detailed photo mode too for those that are into capturing the moments, or even if you just wanted to capture the in-game characters striking that perfect pose.
Good Lord!
I've been saving that for you.
Farted right into my butthole. It's like a fart transplant.
There's some light RPG systems at play too, and although the skill tree is pretty small, these skills add enough move variety to add a good sense of progression compared to other games that have monstrous skill trees where you can unlock that skill that'll provide 1.3967% cost reduction to the price of pants. Simplicity is everything sometimes. Kena Bridge of Spirits is on PC, PS4 and PS5, with a free upgrade for those on PS4 and plan to play on PS5 in the future. And the 1-year anniversary update has added a new game plus, allowing players to replay Kena again with all their required abilities, and the other big inclusion are the equipable charm stones that now provide adjustments to Kena's stats and abilities, allowing players to customize their playstyle. Kena Bridge of Spirits is an incredible achievement, no two ways about it, regardless of whether this is Ember Labs' debut game or not. All of the mechanics have been nicely polished, and no one mechanic stands out from the rest of them, but they all feel refined and they hold their own in the industry standards of today. The flow of the story encapsulates the heartwarming notion of a long, fulfilling journey, and the idea that I've come so far leaving so much behind in quite a short amount of time as well, because the game's only 10 hours long. So it's hats off to Ember Labs and their first crack at a game. If you've played Kena already, or you've got plans to in the future, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.